Hi, my name is Dr. Jason J. Campbell, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my videos. In this next installment, I'm going to begin an analysis of Gayatri Spivak's seminal article, Can the Subaltern Speak? The reason why I'm giving just a brief preface to my typical analysis and lecture on Spivak for a number of reasons. Spivak's article is a very, very dense work, and you know, if you're just being introduced to philosophical thought or post-colonial theory, and you pick up Can the Subaltern Speak and you start to read it, it's like, what in the world is this? What is this woman talking about? There's a lot of assumptions that you need to have prior to even understanding what it is that the paper is arguing for. So what I decided to do was to break up the seminal, what I identified as the seminal concepts needed in order to have an understanding of Spivak's sort of notion of can the subaltern speak, her answer of the subaltern. And the reason why I'm doing this is because if you have an understanding of not necessarily the historical background, but the concepts and the historical discourse around those concepts, specifically with respect to an interpretation of Marx, all of this will make sense once I begin the lecture. But especially with respect to an interpretation of Marx, you'll understand what it is that Spivak is doing, and the importance of this piece. I mean, this piece was one of the reasons why I became a philosopher. I was going to do something else with my life. I was actually studying microbiology, and I took an exit requirement at the university, and I read a couple of papers. Can the Subaltern Speak was one. Michael Tooley's A Justification for Infanticide was another. I read some sort of out there articles, and I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. So I mean, I have a fondness for this piece. This is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, book sections or articles of all time. So I want to do it justice. It's not an easy lecture to prepare because Spivak's writing is so dense, and she has that rich sort of continental style, which is what I love. But it's not easy. It's not easy for for someone who's new to philosophy. And all of my lectures and all of my YouTube channel presupposes that you're just new to philosophy. I know I have a lot of specialists. I have professors and graduate students, advanced graduate students that watch my stuff, but I always try to present as if you have no idea what the material is about. So before I can even get into, I'm going to stop talking now, but before I can even get into sort of the significance of her piece and Can the Subaltern Speak, which I have here, I needed to do some background concepts. So make sure you take the time. I mean, if you're watching the video series, it'll come as a procession within the series. But again, I just wanted to make sure that some of the main concepts are understood before we even get into what it is that she's trying to do in this article, because not only does it affect the article, it affects a lot of, she made a humongous contribution to post-colonial study, post-colonial theory. So with that, I'm going to cut to me lecturing right now. Okay, so let's begin the lecture on Spivak. So this will be Spivak, and the name of her article is Can the Can the Subaltern Speak? So again, what I'm doing in this first part, and if you download the notes, obviously the notes have been updated. If you download the notes, just follow along. I'm going to break this sort of introductory account into parts before we get into the analysis of what it is that she's actually doing and the implications. Again, having an understanding of what she's doing and some of the conceptual, historical, underlying discourse is necessary. It's essential to have an understanding of what she's attempting to do. So this is the preliminary concepts needed to understand Spivak, right? So basically, this is section 4.1, and this is what you should know before BFO, before reading okay. What you should know before reading Spivak. The reason why I think you should know this, and the reason why I think it's important to have just a general understanding of what's going on, is then you'll understand the implications of her research. Okay, the first thing to recognize is you should have an understanding of hegemony. And I'm not, again, as always, I'm going to give a generalized account. I can spend, 8 lectures on just the discussion of hegemony. But the reason why I constructed the videos in the manner that I did with respect to this account of theories, the reason why I started with revisionist history and then I moved on to dealing with the past and so on, is because I believe that those concepts in that order, in that sequence, for me, not only facilitates education, but it also facilitates and stands for a foundation with which we can build much more complex concepts, right? And subalternity is, and the idea of being subaltern is a very misunderstood concept, I think, right? I think a lot of people assume to be subaltern means to be oppressed for something, and in a sense that's true, but in an even larger sense that's false, right? So in order to avoid all of these contradictions and all of these complications and confusions and problems, we have to be very careful. Also, another thing that I should have said while I was giving my introductory account, which I forgot to say before I actually start the lecture, is that what Spivak is really doing in this beginning phase of the piece is she's making sure that philosophers don't make the classical equivocation error. Equivocation, right? Equivocation is the attempt to use a word in 2 different senses in the construction of an argument. If you use the word, the classic example I give is the following. A bat is a mammal. Right? A bat is a mammal. A bat is used to hit the ball. Both are true, right? A bat is a mammal, it's true, right? A bat is used to hit the ball, it's true. Now I draw a conclusion from that, right? We know that in the construction of arguments, our premises have to be true, and if our premises are true, then our conclusion is true. You can't have true premises and a false conclusion, right? So if this is true, and this is true, but I draw the equivocation, therefore, a bat is, a mammal, sorry. Therefore, I'll get that in a second. Therefore, a mammal is used to hit the ball, right? So a bat is a mammal, true. A bat is used to hit the ball, true. Therefore, a mammal is used to hit a ball. Well, that's a different type of sport, right? We don't use bats in the mammal sense, the animal, to hit balls, right? When we're playing a game, we don't do that. What I've done in this argument is I've equivocated. Now, for me, the one thing I practice as a conflict resolutionist, I write as a conflict resolutionist, and I think one of the problems that I'm having at this early point in my career is that I've been trained as a philosopher, so I'm very meticulous in the use of words, and it makes it very difficult for me to write because I spend so much time obsessing about the meaning of the terms that I use. I actually think it's a good thing. I don't think it's problematic. Spivak is really in the first phase of this, and there are many phases of this piece, but in the first phase of her article, she's saying, with respect to two scholars, Deleuze and Foucault, she's saying you guys are equivocating, is what she's basically saying. She might not be saying it as harshly as that, and I'm not trying to speak for Gayatri Spivak. She has her own voice. But my interpretation of the text is that she's saying, she's calling bluff on philosophers. She's saying you guys are doing this, right? You guys are equivocating. So you do need to also understand another one of the preliminary concepts